You know, we love the CPAC conference. I've been there every year for 12 years now, either on the stage or broadcasting from Media Row. It's a great gathering of conservatives from all around the world. It's run by the American Conservative Union, but they do more than just CPAC. Every year they put out the ACU Congressional Ratings, rating every single member of Congress in the House and the Senate based on their votes, based on their agenda, based on their record. And they rate them from the perspective of conservatives here in America. Joining us is Mercedes Schlapp from American Conservative Union, and the ratings are out tonight. Congratulations. I know it's a huge effort.
Thank you.
Can you talk to us a little bit about first the mechanics on how you guys crunch all these numbers and figure out exactly how these ratings are determined?
Well, not only do we do the federal ratings, meaning the congressmen on the House and then obviously the senators as well, we do this in every state legislature, which is just simply amazing.
Wow.
So the 50 states also receive ratings. This gives a chance for our grassroots activists to know, is my member of Congress, is my state legislature, are they conservative? Are they conservative enough? Are they voting for the issues that matter to me? And tonight we do our annual CPAC ratings event. We have over 100 members of Congress coming to the event. What we have found is that half of the Republicans right now on the Hill, both on the House side and the Senate side, are conservative, Larry, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
And the CPAC ratings has been around for 52 years, if you can believe it.
Wow.
And it's the gold standard for ratings. It's the one that the members use to go back home and say, listen, I've kept my contract with you. I am voting on conservative issues from energy to foreign policy to domestic policy. So we look at all the different votes each year and then, of course, have our scorecard. And that's how we go about making sure that our members are keeping their promise to their constituents.
So let's talk about, you rate them from worst to first, or first to worst.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Senate. Perfect 100% scores from the American Conservative Union. You've got Senator Mike Braun of Indiana, Senator Mike Lee of Utah, and Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. Mike Braun and Mike, let's start with those two. Mike Braun, I don't think anyone would be surprised to see Mike Lee on that list. Mike Braun, though, what a solid effort out of the Hoosier State.
Yeah, you know, they call them the Breakfast Club. They're solid in terms of their conservative votes. Ted Cruz is also up there, as is Marsha Blackburn. I mean, you know, we are happy if they make it over 80%. So, you know, we love the perfect scores, but we definitely want to keep them up that 80% time frame. I think the one that's been a big disappointment, obviously, is Mitch McConnell, someone who had a decently conservative record for quite some time. And that percentage went down to 58% because you've seen that Mitch McConnell truly has voted for and supported the Democrats' efforts when it comes to the omnibus bills as well. And that you've seen that the leadership in general, the Senate leadership, has been hugely disappointing. The House leadership, however, they've done really well, Larry.
Yeah.
You have Speaker Kevin McCarthy over 80%. You have Congressman Steve Scalise over 80%. Lee Stefanik, we've seen a huge improvement in her scores. So it's really the House that's driving the conservative agenda and keeping true to the conservative values.
Amen. And I do want to get to the House side in a moment, but on the Senate, John Thune, I must say, he is in leadership, and he fell into that 80 to 89%. So that was the best of the people in leadership. Rand Paul is an interesting rating here at 100% because Rand Paul is sort of seen a little bit off the beaten path of traditional Republicans with regard to national security. I'm curious on the national security front and the criteria they're used for the votes because, I mean, for instance, Rand Paul is not really on board with a lot of the votes with regard to committing money to Ukraine. Was that issue singled out here in your ratings? How does one fall in line?
You know, as long as they vote on these different components, or in the case of Ukraine or in the case of China, they do look at this. They do analyze this. You know, obviously, when it comes to on the conservative side, we don't necessarily want to see excessive spending. In addition to that, we want to see accountability and transparency. That's a big issue. And obviously, China plays a big role as well in making sure that we're tough on China.
Yeah, and listen, as far as I'm concerned, as long as Rand Paul is there going after Anthony Fauci on a daily basis, he wins every scorecard for me with regard to
Yeah,
these
that's
ratings.
right. That's right.
Let's go to the House. I'm thrilled to see regular guests of this program gaining 100% record from you, including Kevin Hearn, Jody Heiss, Jim Jordan, Thomas Massey, Ralph Norman, Greg Steube, Chip Wright. Seriously, it's like my weekly rundown here on O'Connor Tonight. The House has a robust number of Republicans who are conservative and really carrying that spear.
Right. Well, Larry, I'll give you all the credit for making sure you would keep those members in line.
As well you should.
I have to say, I'm really impressed by the list of the conservatives in the House of Representatives. And the other piece that's very interesting is that many of them are chairmen of different committees.
Yes,
you see Mark
I
Green,
noticed
he's
that.
chairman of the Homeland Security, the Committee on Homeland Security. Obviously, Jim Jordan, who runs the Judiciary Committee. So what you find is that these conservatives they're the ones driving the agendas in these committees. It's where you're seeing the significant impact of pushing through legislation that helps the American people, focused on conservative values, protecting families, protecting the First Amendment, protecting the Second Amendment, and making sure that we keep Joe Biden and his administration accountable. So that, to me, I think is it's a very promising situation that we're seeing right now in the House.
All right, so we talked about who was first. Let's talk about who's worst. Susan Collins in the Senate, 38% ACU rating. I mean, forget about being under 50%, under 40%. I mean, that's not a good look for a Republican.
Well, she does better than Democrats who get 0%, like Elizabeth Warren. But here's the deal.
Hold on. If the best thing you can say about Susan Collins as a Republican is she's better than Elizabeth Warren, that's not.
But let's remember, Susan Collins did vote for example, did support the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh to be on the Supreme Court. That was a very big win. I remember being part of those negotiations where Donald Trump would bring in Susan Collins. They would have these really important discussions about Brett Kavanaugh, and she, at the end, supported him. With that being said, Susan Collins is the one who, in many cases, supports Senator Schumer, and supports the Democrats. It's like a Mitt Romney, for example, who's in the 50s, right? So these Republicans are the swing Republicans. I almost view these moderate Republicans as the new moderate Democrats, because we don't have any more moderate Democrats anymore. They've all gone so far to the left that now you find like a Senator Schumer depending on a Susan Collins and on like a Mitt Romney to get to that 60 vote threshold when it's a non-budget item. So, I think that that's what you have seen in terms of the Senate, where you have this group of senators kind of in the middle, trying to make sure that they can, find compromise with the Democrats.
Meanwhile, it should also be noted, comparatively speaking, because everybody talks about Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin from West Virginia. Joe Manchin is a maverick. Joe Manchin could switch parties. As bad as Susan Collins is as a conservative at a 38%, Joe Manchin is the best Democrat there is. He's at 16%.
Right.
So in other words, your worst Republican is still better than your best Democrat.
Better than right. And so this is really fascinating, because you're seeing no labels. That you're having Joe Manchin really identify with this no labels group, which is that Joe Lieberman is part of. And there's this talk if Joe Manchin is going to run as an independent. And they're looking to see if he's they are able to get ballot access on all 50 states. I mean, it's too premature to determine what Joe Manchin's going to do. But we know one thing, it's going to be very hard for Joe Manchin to run for Senate in a Republican state like West Virginia, which is where you have a number of candidates already announced, like Alex Mooney and Jim Justice as well. So I think for Joe Manchin, he's trying to find out what's his next gig. Where he's been good is ensuring that we don't lose a filibuster in the Senate. So that's where he has supported Mitch McConnell. But then again, you see him extreme on other issues where he has backed the Democrats.
Well, we'll have to take up this whole no labels thing another time, though. But if Joe Manchin does, I know a lot of school of thought, conventional wisdom here in town is that Joe Manchin could pull votes from the Republican. I don't see it that way.
Actually, I think he pulls votes from the Democrats,
100%.
and I think the Democrats are more concerned about a Joe Manchin getting in.
Completely.
Now, if Larry O'Connor gets into the race, that can pull from the Republicans.
That will never happen. Mercedes Schlapp, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the ACU ratings. Very excited to have a first look at it right here tonight, as it just got released a couple of hours ago. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.